Okay, let's start. So we had come until this, the verse 11, where Krishna says, "Tesham eva anukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavastaha jnana deepena bhasvata." So we were talking about. I mentioned about how knowledge is a requirement, a prerequisite, but it is not the only thing that gives us mukti. So knowledge by itself does not give us mukti. It is anukampa, he says. And I was mentioning it is grace. That means the Paramatma's grace, anukampa, compassion, is the one that pulls us out of the samsara into moksha. So jnana by itself does not give you moksha, and without jnana there is no moksha, right? Just because you have jnana doesn't mean you automatically become a mukta, but then without jnana, you will not be mukta. So that is very important in this verse. Okay, people are coming in. Okay. So again, see, another thing here that is important to understand is this. We are in beginningless avidya, right? Ajnana, beginningless. Now, the only thing that breaks that is that which is viruddha of ajnana. What is so? That's why he has given the imagery here. What is the imagery he has given? He has given is tamaha. Tamaha means dark. So darkness. So what breaks the darkness? Ajnana is the darkness. So what breaks the darkness? It's viruddha guna. That is that which lights up. So that's why he's saying, comparing the ajnana to darkness, tamaha, nashayami, atma bhavastaha, jnana deepena. So viruddha dharma to tamas is deepa. And then, so once the knowledge, which is like the light, once that light lights up, it destroys the beginningless avidya or ajnana once that light lights up. So for anything to take place, you have to have its viruddha dharma, that needs to come up. So ajnana is tamas, so its viruddha dharma is jnana, which is light. The light banishes the darkness. And like I said, there is, if you look at the jivas, beginningless, the jivas are beginningless and also endless. So we are eternals in that way. That means we have no beginning, we have no end, right? But there are other kinds of eternals also. So if you look at ajnana, ajnana is also eternal in the sense that ajnana has no beginning, but once jnana comes, ajnana has end. So it is still an eternal. So if you look at in the Samskrita literature, eternals in mathematics are not differentiated, right? But in Vedanta, the eternal jiva who has beginningless and endless, that eternality is different from the eternality of ajnana, which is beginningless but has an end for some people. Let's say people, jnanis, once the jnana comes, once the light of knowledge comes, the darkness of the beginningless avidya goes away.
It's infinite in one direction, but not in the other.
So it is infinity, but they say it is a lesser infinity than the infinity of the jiva swabhava for those who become muktas. Right? So the same way, so there is an infinity which is beginningless but has an end. Then there is an infinity that has a beginning but it is endless. What is that infinity?
Knowledge.
No, not mukti.
Oh.
Right? Mukti starts at a certain point, but then it never ends. A mukta jiva never ends. It's eternally mukta. Once after mukti, a person who is mukta, after mukti is eternally mukta, free. So once that you get the freedom in a certain point of time, but after that, for eternal, for eternity, you are free. So that is another kind of infinity. So beginning, that which has a beginning but has no end, is one kind of infinity. That which has no beginning but has an end, like ajnana, for some people, not for everybody, that is another kind of infinity. That has no beginning and no end, that is another kind of infinity. So we recognize three kinds of infinity.
What is that which has no beginning and no end?
Jiva Swabhava, or even Paramatma, Jiva Swabhava, Prakriti, Srishti, everything.
So we never saw infinity as just number.
Yeah, infinity is not a number though. I mean, it is a concept. Even mathematics, infinity is not a number, right? It's a concept.
No, I mean concept, but in our tradition, it is associated with the divine in some way. Correct? Or knowledge? Yeah. So,
but not just divine. I mean, even Prakriti, samsara is infinity. And so, I mean, that's not divine in that sense. But that's the circle. When you show the cycle, the circle, that means it has no beginning, no end. That's why samsara is a cycle, because cycle has no beginning, no end.
Sunil, is Srishti no beginning, no end?
Yeah, no beginning, no end. Why?
Because when we talk about Srishti, we talk about the creation, right?
No. I'm not talking about a particular creation that has a beginning and an end. Okay. But such creations have beginningless and endless. Right? I mean, how many Brahmas will be there? Beginningless, endless. How many Srishtis are there? Beginningless, endless. I mean, there is another Manvantra that comes in, another Manvantra, it comes in again and again and again, right? So it's
no, I got it. Now I got it. Because I was trying to go ahead and look at Srishti from one particular
yeah. You can still take one particular thing, and there is a beginning, middle, and an end to that.
Right.
But such creations are beginningless and endless.
Got it.
Okay, so that is an important concept in this one. One is Viruddha Dharma is required for the Ajnana to be banished. So Ajnana is tamas. Ajnana is dark. So Viruddha Guna for the darkness is light. Jnana is the light. So it is a fight between the light and darkness. That is creation. Right? And then once the light comes, it automatically by its very nature banishes darkness. And that is once jnana comes into our mind, then the jnana which is in our mind is banished. And so that is how you get mukti. Right? Is that understood? Okay. So now, after all this, Krishna has just introduced the concept of vibhuti. What is vibhuti? I think I probably have not mentioned what vibhuti meant in the last couple of classes. Vibhuti means Vishesha Bhutihi. Vishesha Bhuti means, the speciality, something that's special form, special being, special form. That is Vibhuti. So he's talking about his speciality in all of these verses until 11th. That is, that all the devas don't know, the rishis don't know, but he knows them all, they don't know. Like that speciality of what he is has been discussed until now. Now, Arjuna is so fully enthused to ask him more about this because he wants to know how to meditate on Krishna, right? And so now this is like a stuti. What he's doing is he's just praying to Krishna. The reason being, he wants Krishna to give him the more knowledge, which he will ask in after some verses. He'll say, give me more knowledge about this. So let's see what he's saying here. This is verse 12. Arjuna Vacha. So Arjuna is speaking now. Think about this. When he started in the first chapter, it was Arjuna Vishada. He was sad because of that he was looking forward to the death in his own hands of his bandhu, right? I mean, his friends, his relatives, and whoever he held so near and dear to them. But when you come to this point, he's jubilant, he's enthused. His emotion is completely changed. Now he is in joy. He wants to know more, and that joy is now coming as a stuti, as a praise of Paramatma. So Arjuna says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. So remember, we had some controversial things in Gita in Action once when Shiva started this thing, right? Who is this Paramatma? And people were very emotional. Look at what Arjuna himself is saying. Param Brahma. Krishna, you are Parabrahma. You are Paramatma. And not just that. If you go to verse 13, he's saying, Ahuhu Tvam Rishayaha. He's saying, Ahuhu Tvam Rishayaha Sarve Devarishihi Naradas Tatha Asitaha Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. So I'll explain all what it means. But he's saying, Krishna, you are Parabrahma. What is Parabrahma? Brahma comes from the Brihadatu, right? Brihati Brahmayati iti Brahma. That which is itself Purana, infinite in all respects. That is Brahma. Brahmayati means that which makes you full. That is also Brahma. That means Brahma is not just Paramatma is Parabrahma, because he is infinite in all aspects. But he makes you full. That's why Jiva is also called Brahma. Jiva is also called Brahma because Mukta Jiva is also called Brahma because Mukta Jiva is the full expression of whatever you can be. Any of us, whatever, the fullness of whatever we can be when Ajnana goes away. You can think of it as a bowl, right? A bowl has a certain capacity. So if you fill that bowl with water, that is Brahma, that is Purana. But the ocean's capacity and the bowl's capacity are different. But ocean is also Purana, the bowl is also Purana. So you can call the ocean Brahma, you can also call the bowl Brahma in that sense that it is full. Puranatvat Brahma, Brahmayati. Right?
The quality of fullness itself is called Brahma. The quality of fullness.
The quality of fullness is called Brahma. Puranatva. That means whatever fullness that we are capable of, when we achieve that fullness, we become Brahma. So even Mukta Jivas are called Brahma. But not to confuse, they add the adjective Param Brahma. That means the most highest Brahma. Because there are so many different kinds of Brahma. Jiva is also Brahma. Right? Lakshmi is also Brahma. She's called Mahat Brahma. Right? So you have to differentiate. There are so many different kinds of fullness. A lake is also full. A river is also full. A bowl is also full. A small cup is also full. An ocean is also full. So if you call all of them Brahma, then how do you differentiate? So they call Param Brahma. Param Brahma means he who is the highest fullness. Right? It's not just ordinary Brahma. It's not ordinary fullness. It is the highest fullness. It is infinite fullness. And therefore he is Param Brahma. Paramatma or Parabrahma. Right? It is very, very clear. This should be very, very clear. Parabrahma. He is saying, Krishna, you are Parabrahma. He says, Param Dhama. Dhama means Ashraya, right? The final shelter of all of us. Param Dhama, the protector, the shelter for all of creation. You are that. Again, there are different Dhamas. There are different protectors. Devatas are protectors. All these different Devatas are different protectors at different levels. Shri Bhu Durga, they are protectors. They are also Param Dhama. They are also Dhama. but then there is only one Paramdhama. There is only one Paramdhama, and that is the ultimate protector, the highest of all protectors, the protector of protectors. Who is he? That is you, he is saying. Param Brahma, Param Dhama. So you have to understand the use of Param in this, right? It is not Param. Para means higher, highest, in all respects. Highest Brahma, highest Dhama, shelter. Then he is what? Pavitram. Of course, he is himself pure. That means untouched by Ajnana, untouched by Papa, untouched by any of the blemish. So he is Pavitram. But Pavitram is also because Pavitra Hetuhu. It means he purifies whatever he touches, he purifies. His knowledge purifies us. And that's how we lose our Ajnana. So he's not only pure himself, that means blemishless, Papa-less, and then Ajnana-less, ever. Not in the beginning, not in the, with beginningless, endless, Pavitra. We become Pavitra when we become Muktas in the full sense. Otherwise, we become, purity of thought to a relative extent, even in samsara. But that purity happens because of him and his knowledge. So he is Pavitram because of himself, as well as he purifies others. Pavitraha, Pavitra Hetuhu, Pavitraha. Pavitram. Okay. Paramam Bhavan.
Pure, does the word pure have anything to do with Pavitra?
Yeah. It comes from Pu Dhatu, Pu. And in English, Pu is pure. It's the same Dhatu as Samskrita. So Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, right? You are a highest of the highest. Purusham. He says, what is Purusham? How many different senses I've taught you in the class? What is Purusham? Purusha. What does Purusha means? Male, right? He's the male.
The one who lives in a city.
Purushakara.
No. Purushakara means effort. Your effort is Purushakara.
So it means that there are many Purushas, you said.
Correct.
So then Dipya.
No, first let's start with us. Are we Purusha?
One definition of Purusha is a person living in a city of 9 doors.
Correct. That is in Samskrita. It's the derivation is Purishete iti Purushaha. Puri means in the city. The city dweller. City is the city which is the body, right? The body. Puram ekadasha dvaram ajasya avakrachetasaha Katopanishad. Right? And then in the Gita, Navadvare Pure Loke, Navadvare Puraha, it says. 9 doors, city of 9 doors. That means 9 open doors, 11 doors, 11 total doors. So Upanishad says 11 doors because it has Sahasrara Chakra as well as the navel, which is closed at birth, Sahasrara, which is closed until Mukti. So if you add those two, then 9 plus 2, 11. Right? So Purushayate, Purusha means the indweller in everything. Right? So we are also Purushas, but we are Purusha in the sense that we are indweller of our own body. He is Purusha. He is the indweller in everything in the universe. Okay.
That's a beautiful definition. We are dwellers of our own body.
Yeah, we are dwellers of our own body.
That's a beautiful one.
He is the dweller. That's Krishna says that, Kshetrajna, Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. He says, you are the Kshetrajna of your own body. That means you are the Abhimani of your own body. If you want, you can move your hand. But if I want, I can move all hands in the universe. So he's Kshetrajna in that sense. Sarva Kshetreshu Kshetrajna. Okay, Purusha also means Puru Saranat, or Puru means full, infinity, Puru, infinity. So he is also infinite in that sense, right? But in the main sense here, it is because the infinity is already being talked about. He is Purusham as the indweller of everything in the universe. Purusham, that is Purusha. Okay, the next one, Shashvatam. What is Shashvatam?
Which is
Permanence.
If somebody has to mute, there's some noise here.
Shashvatam is permanence, right?
What is the difference? I'll ask you this question. Okay, what is the difference between Ajam, beginningless, Nityam, and Shashvatam?
Shashvatam is permanence. It will be there forever. Shashvatam.
What is
Changeless, right?
Nityam? What is Nityam?
Forever.
Nityam, it is relative to time. It's available or presence in only a short amount of time.
No. Nityam means always present, always there.
Yeah.
Shashvatam means that which does not change, changeless is Shashvatam. Right? So the difference between Nityam and Shashvatam is Shashvata is without change, Nityam is eternal.
But it means Nityam means changing? No.
Nityam can be changing also.
Okay.
See, there is like Prakriti is changing Nitya, right? She is always changing. Jiva is unchanging Nitya, right? So Shashvatam means, that's why in the second chapter, Jiva is called Shashvata, because Jiva itself by Swarupa is changeless. The Swarupa doesn't change. But Deha changes, right? So Deha is not Shashvata. Deha is not Shashvata. The same way, the Prakriti is not Shashvata, but she is Nitya. Prakriti changes, right? The samsara happens. So there is changeless eternal, there is changing eternal.
But
So
time is
therefore,
not Shashvata.
But
Time
for
changes.
Shashvatam, only Paramatma is the example. That's about it.
Paramatma, even Jiva, right? Jiva is also Shashvata.
Shashvata, unless they are Mukti Jivas.
No. Even now we are Shashvata as a Jiva Swabhava, Swarupa.
Okay.
Right? Jiva doesn't change. Yeah, Sana, what did you ask?
I said time is cannot be called Shashvata because time keeps changing.
Correct. That's why it comes under the category of Nitya. That means it's Nitya, eternally, non-eternally eternal. That means time has a beginning at creation, time has an end, but time will be there. In every creation, there will be time. Just like, Akasha is also Nitya in the sense that there is going to be Akasha always.
So it's not that Shashvatam refers only to matter.
No. Shashvatam refers to matter also. Matter, yes. Chaitana is not Ashashvata. Chaitana is Shashvata. Okay, so Shashvatam means changeless. So Purusham Shashvatam, Divyam. Divyam means that which is different from the ordinary that we see. Divyam. That means that is divinely in the sense that it is different, very different from our everyday experience, very different from the physical experience, that the things that we see in the world. That's why it's Divyam. Then Adi Devam, of course, he's Adi Deva. He's before all the Devas, he was the only Deva that was there. Right? And then also Adi Deva, as in the Devas Adi. All the Devas came from him. That means the creator of all the Devas is also Adi Deva. The first Deva that was there is also Adi Deva. So Adi Deva. Ajam means, of course, beginningless, which he himself said. Vibhum. Vibhu means Vivida Bhuti. So he's not just sitting in one form. He creates infinite forms of his. Each one of those are eternal. Right? Narsimha form, for example, did not start in the Narsimha Avatara. Narsimha form is eternal form. It just did not begin now in this Manvantara. Even though all the Dashavataras refer to all the 10 manifestations in this Manvantara, in the Vaivasvata Manvantara, it does not mean that Matsya is started only now. Matsya was there even as an infinite, it is eternal form. Right? All his forms, that is why he is Ananta Rupa. He is infinite formed and each form is eternal. There's no beginning. So if he comes in some new form like Kalki form, it doesn't mean that Kalki started just now. No. There is already a Kalki form that is already there that will manifest in the world.
Okay.
Right? So each form of Paramatma is eternal. It does not manifest just because some event happened and then he manifested as that form. Kurma did not manifest because they needed somebody to carry the weight of that mountain, Mandara Parvata. No. Kurma is an eternal form. And if you look at when we do puja, you have to worship all the devatas, that are surrounding the main deity that that will be on the throne, right? That's how they conceptualize this. And then so you have to do when you do pujas of all of the Dwarapalaka puja and all of these different pujas, like if any festival comes, just think, you listen to what the Purohit says. They start with they'll start with the puja. Navagraha puja will start, and then there'll be all the Dwarapalakas, Dharmaya Namaha, and all of Dharmaya. It's three forma. The three forms. It's the female forms. Dharmaya Namah, Adharmaya Namah. All of those are three forms that are there. And then if you go below them, what is upholding them? And then they'll tell this is what is upholding them. Finally, everything comes down to Prithvi is upholding them. Who is upholding Prithvi? Who is upholding creation? Then Ananta is upholding creation. Who is upholding Ananta? Mukhya Prana. Prana is upholding Ananta. Who is upholding him? It says finally everything is sitting on Kurma. That means Kurma is the form with which Paramatma is upholding entire creation. That is not just this world. 14 lokas, entire creation, everything is upheld in its place by Kurma. If you listen to pujas, that is what they're going to show. Who is upheld by who, and they go finally. Ananta upholds everything, and then Ananta is upheld by Prana. Prana is upheld by Kurma.
So what is the meaning of Ananta upholding?
That means all of this universe is upheld by Ananta.
Ananta means?
Ananta means Shesha.
Oh, it's Anantnag. Okay, Shesha.
Yeah, Shesha.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
Again,
now I remember it was made fun of in some document that I read. That the Indians...
It is because, see, the imagery we get is that, there's a snake with a hood and then the world is sitting like this. It is not like this. See, all of the imagery of the Puranas, it is an imagery, but it is not like that. It is not like there's a snake that is on which the whole universe is there. It's not like that. It is a form, like, Ananta Shakti, Shesha Shakti is actually Akarshana Shakti, right? So it is like gravity. So Shesha is the Abhimani Devata of the gravity. So finally it might mean that everything is upheld in place by gravity, right? So that's the Shesha Shakti that upholds it. What upholds the gravity? Vayu Shakti or Prana Shakti. What upholds the Prana Shakti? Kurma Shakti. Again, it doesn't mean there is a physical tortoise on which the whole universe is. That becomes very trivial. That is not what it is. Kurma Shakti is the one that upholds things. Things are upheld by Kurma Shakti.
Now, what I read was a critique of our ancient Indian scientists and mathematicians who did not who did not have the guts to say that all this means nothing, and they actually described the universe as it was. So I saw that kind of critique.
No, they did say that too. they did say that, you know, what the Purana says, imagery. It's not how you see the universe.
Who said that?
Varamira said that. Aryabhatta
Okay.
said that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
they fall short of complete critique, but they just hint at it or something like that.
yeah,
That's
they hint at it.
what.
And that's the reason why they describe the world as they see it. Right? Because you cannot take Purana imagery and use it for day-to-day living or for business. You know, you cannot do that, because you need the world as it is to go about the world. I mean, that is the reason why India was there, you know, for celestial navigation and all that. Astronomy was used for navigation, for agriculture and all those things, right? So now, but the Purana is there for sadhana. It is not there for business. So the Purana, you know, the imagery that Purana gives is how to, you know, understand the creation for sadhana. Right? It is not for how to do business, you know, how to grow crops. No, that is not what Purana is telling you. So if you understand that, and then if you understand that, you know, it doesn't mean that, for example, if you look at Matsya Avatara, right? Of course, there was no big fish that carried a ship. I mean, no, there's nothing like that. That happened at the beginning of Vaivasata Manvantara. That is this Manvantara. It began with Matsya Avatara, right? Because the world was flooded. But then, if you see, after all descriptions in the Matsya Purana, for example, they say the boat. What is that boat? It means Shri, that Lakshmi herself was the boat. So they didn't make a boat that carried everything. No, Lakshmi herself became the boat. And then, you know, what was that fish that carried? He says, no. In the Jnana Chakshus, in the Divya Chakshus, it appeared as a fish, not physical, through the physical eyes. That you will see the difference in the next chapter. Because Krishna says, my Vishwarupa, you will not see with your physical eyes, you need special eyes for that. So that's called as Jnana Chakshus. So the Matsya Rupa was Jnana Chakshus Rupa. It is not physically big fish was there. No. There was neither a boat that was made. It was Lakshmi that transformed into a boat in that sense. And nor was there a big fish that carried that boat. It was carried by you should think of these as invisible hand. This is an invisible hand that is moving things. The Jnanis will know what that hand is. The Jnanis knew that hand that upheld the Mandara Parvata was a tortoise form. The Jnanis saw that the boat was pulled by a fish form. The physical people didn't know that. The people didn't know what was carrying this. They thought maybe the wind was carrying it or whatever. But the real carrier was Matsya. Right? So these are all Jnana Chakshus Rupa. Krishna is not. Krishna people saw, you know, Jnanis also saw him. Ajnanis also saw him. Parashurama, Jnanis also saw him. Ajnanis also saw him. Rama, Jnanis also saw him. Ajnanis also saw him. Right? Buddha. So all of these are physical manifestations where people actually saw these physical forms. Right? They did see the physical forms. There was no Jnana Chakshus. So if it was the Jnana Chakshus, like Arjuna recognized who Krishna is. That's why he's saying Param Brahma, Param Dhama. Right? But for an ordinary person, Krishna was an ordinary person. This is some warrior, some mischief maker. Right? So that is the difference. If you need to understand this. Physical manifestation happened after Parashurama. Until then, all the forms are Jnana Chakshus. You know, not everything were in this world, right? I mean, Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu, it was not even about this world. Vamana was not in this world. It was all in Swarga. Right? So that does all the forms that started physically manifesting in the Dashavatara here was from Parashurama.
In the Bible, there is something called Noah's Ark, where a big ship was collected with all the animals to save them.
No, it's not.
To this Matsya Avatara, right?
It is not just, I mean, it is in all world literature. I mean, even if you go to African, Egyptian literature, any literature, they all start with there was a big flood. Like the Mesopotamia, you know, like Hammurabi and all those. if you go there, they had a, they call that the myth, right? The myth of the flood myth. That is there in every culture.
Oh.
So that's there in every culture. But in Vedanta, it is much more, detailed and explained and all of those things.
Yep.
And here it says, no, it is not physical ship. It is not, it is not the physical fish. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then
yeah, actually, the very fact that our culture about Vedas are at least, we can say it's 5,000 or 6,000 years old. It's definitely older than that, but at least 5,000. So even 5,000 years back, we said that there is a flood, and then it's a Matsya Rupa, they came and so all the other religions which says, like Christianity, which says there was a Noah's Ark and all that, this is a proof that they imbibe it from Hinduism. So
no, but
Hinduism,
it has to be, from, there is a certain, of some concept in a culture. And when people move to different places, they take that and then, they build on it. And as they're in one place, it changes and, all that metamorphosis happens. And so that you land up with the same basic core story with different details and different names and all that. That is true. And again, coming back to that 5,000, that points to when Vyasa created what we today have, at least whatever Vyasa created, that Vyasa creation, whatever Vyasa created, whatever is existing today, which is just a portion of what came to us, that started 5,000 years ago with Vyasa and his Shishyas.
that I agree. Absolutely.
Right?
That's what.
But before that, it was all spread out all around, what was then the Indian subcontinent and I don't know where else. But they were collected and put in a form in which we study today.
And that is, there is another place where I had read that in Christianity, there is this Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And there is a reference, if you can trace that the reference back to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit probably is referring to Krishna.
No. Please don't start all that stuff. No.
That's what it comes. That reference comes.
See, internet is the worst place to study all these things.
No, I did not see it from an internet. I read it in some reference books only. It's one of the.
No, nothing like that. See, spirit. If you go back to Middle Eastern, literature, spirit means prana, right? That is what they refer to as spirit. Prana tattva was spirit, and the spirit was there even with Greeks. So Greeks also call that, I forgot the name, what they used to call that, pneuma or something like that, pneuma. Right? Pneumonia come from that. Pneuma means air, which is prana. So spirit is prana. So let's leave that. That is, you have to be very clear on the concepts. You should not read all those things. Okay. Now the next one, 13th one, it is good. Here Krishna, what Arjuna is saying, Ahuhu Tvam Rushayaha. So all of these things, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. Arjuna is saying, it is not me telling this. Yes, I am also telling this. But this is Ahuhu Rishayaha. Tvam. Tvam means they say this to you. Who? All the rishis say that. Right? All the rishis. So it is not that Arjuna himself, each one of us will come up with the concept, some concept, Oh, I did meditation and I found this. And that's how most of the schools are, today. That, some founder did some meditation and found something, and that's a new thing. But that is not how it works. It should always be, it should always be compared to what the Agamas say, what the Rishis say. Is it similar to the Rishi Jnana? Right? If it is not similar to the Rishi Jnana, then it is not to be taken. right? So here Arjuna is saying, I said all of this. I said Parabrahma, Parabdhama. It is not me saying all this. It is all the rishis say this. Ahuhu tvam rishayah. He says, all the rishayah survey, all rishis say this. Let's going back to what Siva had, the controversy that he started. I don't know if he's there today. About, what is the Paramatma? Should we name this and all that? We started. And I don't know who started, who said, oh, it is only Vedavyasa saying this. But if you Vasishtha said something else, Vishwamitra said something else. No. Look at this verse. Ahuhu, they call you Parabrahma. Who? Sarve Rishayaha. All rishis are saying the same thing. It is not one rishi saying one, another rishi is saying another thing. No. Ahuhu Rishayaha Sarve. And then he is giving examples of people he has met in his lifetime. Devarishi Naradas Tatha. All rishis, Devarishi Narada, who we have come in contact with. He also says the same thing. Devarishi Narada says the same thing. See, what is the difference between a rishi and a Devarishi?
Devarishis are, people like Valmiki, Vishwamitra, those are.
No, they're not Devarishi. They're rishis. They're Brahma, Vishwamitra is Brahma Rishi. See, Devarishi means the rishi among the devas. So Narada is Deva. Just like, all the devas, Varuna, Mitra, Aditya and all that. Narada is also Deva. But he is not Aditya, he is not Vasu, he is not Rudra, he is a rishi. So there is a Deva Rishi Gana and he is part of that. So among the devas, those who are rishis among the devas, they are Devarishis.
So Narada is a Devarishi.
Narada is a Devarishi.
That means Vasishtha is a Brahma.
No. Brahma Rishi.
So Brahma Rishi, so he's a Rishi among the Brahmas, right?
Please don't ask me this question. Is that true? I mean, from whatever you have learned in the class, can you say that? Brahma Rishi means Brahma Jnana. One who has the Brahma Jnana, that Rishi is Brahma Rishi.
Okay.
Raja Rishi means Raja, or the king who has been a king, who becomes a Rishi. Kshatriya Rishis are called Raja Rishis.
And Saptarishis are Devarishis or
No, Saptarishis are Brahma Rishis.
Oh.
They are all Brahma Rishis. Okay. So Devarishi Naradas Tatha. That means Narada, who is the one among the Deva, Rishi, who I have come in contact with. He says the same thing. He says all Rishis say this. Narada says that Asitaha Devalo. Asita and Devala are very famous Rishis in Mahabharata. They come, in different points in the Mahabharata story and talk to Yudhishthira and guide the Pandavas. So Asita and Devala, they also say the same thing, because these are the ones they have come in contact with. Vyasa, of course, Vyasa himself says the same thing. Swayam chaiva bravishime. And not only that, you are now saying the same thing. Krishna, you are yourself saying the same thing. You've told me the same thing. So what I am telling is not something new. What I am telling, all the rishis have told. And the rishis that I have met have told. You yourself have told this. And therefore it is valid. So this is a check of validity of knowledge. Right? I mean, this is, even though it looks very simple, this is a check for validity of knowledge, especially spiritual knowledge. Right? See, there are what? There are three pramanas, right? Pratyaksha pramana, Anumana pramana, Agama pramana. Pratyaksha pramana means that we physically experience and find out. Right? Do I need Rishi to tell me that I am holding a phone in my hand or I am talking through Zoom? Do I need Rishi to say that? Do I need Agamas to tell me that?
No.
No. Because why? Pratyaksha siddham. that which is pratyaksha siddham, experientially established, you don't need anything else. Now, anumana siddham, that means logically established. So that which you can logically establish, that means anything that can be logically established needs to have some pratyaksha aspect to it. That means you know the cause, but you don't know the effect. So you can deduce the effect from the cause. Because in Samskrita, in the Nyaya literature, they call it vyapti. That means there is a they can say the eternal connection between the cause and the effect. That means whenever there is a fire, there is a smoke. So there is always this connection. There's this connection that we have experienced, right? Then if you see the smoke, you can deduce the fire. That is seeing the effect to deduce the cause. The same way, seeing the cause to deduce the effect. That is anumana. You have to see something. It either has to be cause or effect. Something has to be pratyaksha, right? When there is no pratyaksha, no experience, you get it through words, shabda pramana, right? Shabda pramana. This is common sense, right? Things that you know, you either know because you have seen it, heard it, seen it, let's say, have done it, experienced it, or logically deduced it, or somebody told you, or you read it in a book. Is there another way of knowing?
No.
Right? There's no other way of knowing. Either you have to experience something, or you have to logically deduce something, or somebody has to tell you. Right? So that somebody telling you, that is called as agama. That is a specific domain. Not everything is agama, right? Now, I have never seen Africa. So if somebody who has gone to Africa tells me about Africa, that doesn't become agama pramana. That means agama pramana is something which nobody has seen. The only reliable thing is just heard. That's why it's shruti. Right? The concept of God is always heard. It is never experienced in the first place. Of course, once you hear it, then you can experience moving forward, right? For example, if your parents did not tell you about God, would you have logically deduced that God exists? Or would you be listening to Gita?
No.
Right? So the concept of God is initially already given to you. And therefore, you are thinking in those terms, right? But that given has to be, it is not experiential given. It is not logic given. It is given through words. Because nobody has experienced it. To start with, they have not experienced it. They have always ended with an experience. They have not started with an experience. Very important to know that, right? And therefore, in a domain where experience is the end of it and not the beginning of it, things that you come up by yourself, you cannot hold it as reality, right? For example, you can read a book where some author says, I think God should really be, something, he should really have a beard. And he says, oh, because I think all of those things. Because somebody thought about it, does it become a reality? No. There is a way to establish the validity of that. And that is to see who others have said the same thing. Have the rishis said the same thing? Who has said, does Agama say the same thing? If not, then there is some problem. It is not reality. It is my imagination. So, okay, I have not come up to reality yet. My meditation has to continue, right? So that is how sadhana happens. Sadhana, see, everybody who does meditation at some stage will have some revelation, which is bound to be wrong. Some people will stop there and say, this is what I have had this sakshatkara, that God is this. And that is the reason why there are so many different people who have so many different sakshatkaras, because they have stopped at some point and they have not compared it to what the other rishis are saying, or they have not compared it to what all the agamas are saying, and therefore it has become misleading. Right? In this
Sunil.
domain, which is non-experiential, you have to always compare your experience with the experience of the rishis. Otherwise, what you come up with is your own imagination and is not knowledge. It is basically ajnana.
So Sunil, are you saying that the rishis, whatever they have defined, is the baseline, and that's
It
how
is the, see, Vedanta is like a, I give this example of how to read our, for a lack of a better word, scriptures. How to read our scriptures, right? Do you read it like a storybook? No.
No.
Because people are reading it like a storybook, the Puranas look very, very childish. Right? That's what happens when you read something like a storybook.
Right.
Right? Do you read it, study it like, the driver's license manual as a book of rules? No,
No,
it's
you
not
won't.
like that. You don't. Do you study it like a map? Yes. Right? And how do you study a map? You look at the, oh, I need to go to that destination. And then, oh, I need to take this route. You take that route. And then when you have midway, you check, oh, have I come to this place? Am I supposed to see this water tank here? Am I supposed to see the circle here? Right? And then you look at the map and say, oh, I'm not supposed to see all of those things. I think I've taken the wrong way. Let me go back and go to a different route. That's how you study a map.
Right.
Right? That is how Vedanta needs to be studied. That is exactly what Arjuna is saying in this simple thing, but there's a profound meaning in what he's saying now. So he's saying, I am calling you Parabrahma, Paramdhama, Pavitra, and all of those things. This is not my imagination. It's not like my praise. I'm not trying to praise you to make you happy, to reveal all of these things. No. I am saying this, and the same idea all the rishis are also saying. Devala, Narada, Vedavyasa, all of them are saying the same thing. So that is reality. That is truth. And that is how truth, the validity of truth, of domain that is beyond experiential domain, that is how you see that. That is how you validate it. You validate it like a map. A sadhana using Vedanta is like a map, right? And so where you check all, the various points or what people are saying, right? What people are saying, what is that? There's this app where people input the traffic and all those things, right?
Waze.
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 W-A-Z.
Yeah,
Waze.
Wazi or Waze, there are two ways of saying. So in that, right, that is exactly this, Vedanta, right? Now they're saying, oh, there is traffic on Gosling Road, right? So then if you say the same thing, that means, okay, that's okay. That is, it's valid because, yes, this is valid because it's the experience of all the other people who are all also on the same road. Some probably have already gone ahead. Some of them are coming in. That is Vedanta. That is what Krishna is saying here, right? Your idea is not Vedanta. Reading in some book is not Vedanta. Is that validated by Agama? If yes, that is Vedanta, right? Otherwise, you shouldn't even attempt to say that. That is the wrong thing to say. And that is what Arjuna is telling here, that, hey, you know what? It's not just me. It's not my mental conjecture. It's not my imagination. It is what all the rishis have said. It is what Devarishi Narada has said. It is what Asita, Devala, and Vyasa have said. It is what you yourself have told me. Right? Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. That which is what you are also telling me. Right? This important concept is embedded in these two verses. That points to how you should learn. How do you learn Vedanta? Not learn in a different learning. This is learn Vedanta, which is beyond your experiential domain. Right? Learn Vedanta, which is beyond your experiential domain. Okay, now verse 13 is over. Here. Then he is saying, Sarvam etad ritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava nahi te bhagavan vyaktim vidur devaha na danavaha. So I take, see, it's continuing from the previous verse. It says, Sarvam etat ritam manye. I believe this is true, right? Ritam satyam. Manye, I believe this is true because this is my experience. This is what you are telling me. This is what all the rishis have said. So I believe this is true. This is the truth, right? Now think about this. Arjuna is telling Parabrahma, I think what you're saying is truth. He's not saying, hey, what you told is true. He's saying, because of all this reason, I believe what you say. Right? In which religion can you say this? Right? Here, even Krishna's words are weighed against the words of the rishis. And then he says, Sarvam etad ritam manye. I think what you have told, all of this, my experience, what you have told me, I believe that is valid, that is true. Because I can compare this to the experience of all of this. And you yourself told me the same thing. Sarvam etad ritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. That which you have told me. And then, nahi te bhagavan vyaktim viduhu devaha na danavaha. So nobody knows. Vyaktim means you fully, your personality. Nobody knows. Na devaha, na danavaha. That means neither the devata shaktis, nor the asura shaktis, nor anybody, nor the maharishis, like, that Krishna himself said before, they don't know. Right? Nahi te bhagavan vyaktim viduhu devaha na danavaha. Neither the asuras nor the suras know you. Because you yourself have to tell. Right? Yes. There's a question?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to raise my hand. Somehow, I don't know, but I clicked something and my hands got raised.
Okay.
No question. That was a mistake.
There are questions in the chat box too.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. Is the concept of infinity Anumana? No, it's not. Concept of infinity is not Anumana. Concept of infinity is Pratyaksha. And also it is Agama. Because there are different kinds of infinity, right? Something which is cyclical is in infinity which is Pratyaksha. Right? That which is a cycle that goes on and on and on. That is Pratyaksha Siddha. Of course, infinity is, you can never say Pratyaksha Siddha because you have to stand there to see if it ends. But in a sense. But infinity as a concept is always Agama Siddha because the Agamas, supra experiential, supra logic. That infinite concept of infinity is supra logic, beyond logic. That kind of infinity. That Jiva is beginningless, Jiva is endless. That is an infinity that is Agama. Okay. And then Anand says epistemology of Verdant. Agama, Anumana, with which I didn't understand that, Anand, which is teaching, and then finally Pratyaksha.
Sunil, it is epistemology of Vedanta. Does it work like you first do the hearing part, then you do the deduction with Rishi's teachings, and then finally Pratyaksha Pramana?
No, they happen simultaneously. See, we have to live in this world, right? So for this world, you need Pratyaksha. You have to navigate this world through Pratyaksha, right? The Puranas will give you the guidance which is beyond Pratyaksha, right? Dharma, adharma is not Pratyaksha, beyond Pratyaksha. That's a guidance. But how do you live? How do you make a living? That Puranas will not tell you that. You have to figure it out yourself. That's Pratyaksha domain. And of course, even logic is needed to live in this world. And also in the sadhana, Pratyaksha and Anumana is needed simultaneously with Agama. Because that which is in our domain, that is always valid because we experience it. that which we cannot experience, we have to look at agamas to know what it is. So all these three go together all the time.
Got it.
Okay, so hold on. Yeah, nahi te bhagavan vyaktim viduhu devaha na danavaha. So going to the next one, 15. Then he says, okay, he says viduhu devaha na danavaha. That means neither all the devas here, when he says devaha, he means from Brahma, the first among the devas, to all of the deva ganas don't know. All of the asura ganas don't know. That means nobody knows. Then the question is, does God himself know himself? Right? If nobody knows and I also don't know, then what is the point, right? So then he is saying, Swayameva Atmana Atmanam Vedha. Only you know yourself. So there is somebody who knows. The devas don't know, the asuras don't know, but yeah, of course, you are the only one who knows. If you yourself didn't know, then Ajnana would have been Paramatma. Because Ajnana is there everywhere. And it's also the master of Paramatma himself. So it will be Param Paramatma. But since he has no Ajnana, there is no dependence for him on anything, even information, knowledge. Because the knowledge is always there with him at all times. Swayameva Atmana Atmanam Vedha. You know yourself through yourself. That is another one. Atmana Atmanam Vedha means, for us, we need an external thing, a tool to know. For example, if you to look at our mental faculties, the mind is a tool. It is not us. The mind is not us. It is just like I have a hand, I have a mind, manas. When I say mind, I mean manas, Samskrita manas. The same way I have buddhi. It is also a tool, right? Without manas and buddhi, can I know? I cannot know. So that means my knowledge is dependent on my anthakarana. So what happens when my manas goes bad? I can no longer know. When my buddhi is bad, I can no longer judge, right? I mean, if somebody has a degenerative disease, they no longer recognize. What happened? If the recognizing and all of those things was already inherent in them as a jiva guna, that would never have stopped. We always depended on the mental faculties to know, to think, to say, to do all things. But we take it for granted. Only when it goes away that we know that it was that we depended on those to function, right? Because we always function, we never think about it as different from us. Only when it dysfunctions, then we know, oh, no, it is not me. These are all tools. Manas is tool. It can go bad. Buddhi is tool. It can go bad. Ahankara is tool. It can go bad. Chitta is tool. It can. If you lose chitta, what happens? You have no memory. You don't know who is where, what is nothing, right? So that means now I remember. Oh, I was thinking. I was in control of my memories. I could recall anything, but no. Memory is a tool. I was given the tool. When it was taken away, I cannot do anything, right? But is God like that? Is he dependent on something to know? Here Arjuna says, Atmana Atmanam Vedha. You know yourself by yourself. There is no other tool. There is no other tool. You know yourself through yourself. You yourself are the knowledge and the knowledge giver to yourself.
What is Vedha?
Vedha means knower. With dhatu. Vedha means you know. Swayameva. Swayam, you yourself know yourself through yourself. You do not depend on any tools, any karanas. You do not depend on anything external. You are self-dependent. That is why he is sarvatantra swatantra. That means there is no paratantratva. Paratantra is not there. You are not dependent on anything external to yourself for anything else, right? And then in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is this, you all know about this Aham Brahmasmi, right? All of you know that. What does that mean?
It does not mean I am God.
I am part of
No. The context of Aham Brahmasmi is the Rishi's students are asking the Rishi, you know, when Jiva knows Brahma, then the Jiva becomes full, right? You get moksha. You lose all the ajnana and you become the full expression of yourself. Whatever you can be, you become, right? But Paramatma is always full, always infinite. Does he know himself? And because of which he is always infinite, right? I mean, it's a logical question. It is, if B knows A, B becomes full. A is always full. Does that mean that A always knows A? Right? Putting it in logic, it is like this, right? If B knows A, B will be full. A is always full. Is A is full because A always knows itself? That's the question. So then the Rishi says, you know, Brahma va idamagra asit, sa atmanam eva avet aham brahmasmi iti. That means Brahma was there, that means Parabrahma. Paramatma was there even beginning before creation. He knew himself all the time as I am Brahman. It is God knowing himself as Aham Brahman. It's not us knowing Brahman as Aham Brahman. It is Krishna is like knowing himself as I am Krishna. Can we say I am Krishna? No. Only he can say he is Krishna. Right? The same way, Aham Brahmas means Atmanam eva avet. He knows himself as Aham Brahman, which is what exactly he is saying. Swayam eva Atmana Atmanam vetta from Purushottama. You always knew yourself as what? As Paramatma, as full, as infinite. Right? You are the only, because without any other external tools, which is what even Brahma, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Aham Brahmasmi. That means God knows himself that I am God always. Right? That is what he says. And that God does not need any external tool to know that he is God. Or he should say he is infinite. God always knew himself as I am infinite. And therefore he is always infinite. Right? So that is the bhava of this also. Bhuta bhavana bhutesha. That means the creator of all the beings and the master controller of Bhuta Isha, Bhutanam Isha, Deva Deva, the Deva of all the Devas themselves. Even the Brahma considers him as his Deva. Deva Deva, Jagatpati, the one who is the Pati, as in protector of the world. Pati means what? What is Pati? See, Pati means Pa. There are two, right? Ma and Pa. It is there in every society. Ma, every word for mother will start with Ma. There will be one Ma word in any culture for mother. There will be one Pa word or Pa derived word for father. Right? Even the father, Fa, is actually derived from Pa. Right? You go paternal, right? Paternal, Pa. Pa means to protect. Pa means to protect. So Pati means, Jagat Pati means the Jagat's protector. Okay. Any questions so far? You guys have been very, very silent.
Listening. Listen.
I know, but you are listening. What about others? There is a
Similar
word. Huh?
Similar to in Vishnu Sahasranama, Jagat Kurum Deva Devam Anantam Purushottam.
Correct. Yes, this is very much like Vishnu Sahasranama. See, there is a word that Krishna uses for Arjuna later on, Gudakesha.
Yeah.
Gudakesha means Gudaka Isha. Gudaka means sleep, like dozing off. Gudaka Isha, that means that he who conquered sleep. Arjuna conquered sleep. That means when he got down to do something, he would complete it without needing any sleep. he did not need to sleep, right? So I want to need to see if people have dozed off here. Do I have Gudakas or Gudaka Ishas here? Because all of you have turned off your videos. I don't know if you are Gudakas or Gudakisha.
Coming back live.
Okay. Everybody's waking up now.
I was totally alert.
Yeah. See, you have to be Gudakish. See, one of the things about Arjuna that we have to learn is that he was one of the greatest students. He is like the model student of how a student should be. Gudakesha is one name for him. That means when he was alert at learning something, he would not leave it until it is done. Gudaka means sleep or dozing off, losing interest. Gudaka Isha means he who has won over that sleep. That is Gudakesha.
Yeah, we are all awake. So
Okay.
I think that's a good point about Arjuna, because I think he was the best student for Dronacharya, and he was also the best student for Krishna. And I think that's why he got everything that came his way. No.
Yes.
Is it Gudakesha or Gudaka Isha?
Gudaka Isha. Gudakesha.
Gudakesha. Gudakesha is one who has conquered sleep.
Yes.
I think Siva is also there then. It's good.
Oh, he also woke up. Okay. Now 16th. Vaktum arhasi asheshena divyaha hi atma vibhutayaha yabihi vibhutibihi lokani mam tvam lokani mams tvam lokani imams tvam vyapya tishtasi. So he says, now he's praised, right? Until verse 15, he is praised. And then he said, it's not a praise because people have said this. This is truth, And then he's saying, Vaktum arhasi asheshena. Ashesha means, shesha means what? Shesha means remainder, that which remains in the end. Right? When you're doing division, that which is not divisible, the remainder is shesha. Right? That's a shesha. Shesha means when everything is gone, what remains is shesha. Ashesha means everything together, whole. Ashesha means whole. So, Vaktum arhasi, you really need to tell me, Asheshena, fully, whole thing. Divyaha, hi atma vibhutaya, all your forms through which, all your special forms, all these unique forms that you have, through which you have pervaded all of the creation, in which you are there in creation in all these different forms, right? You need to tell me everything. Tell me all the forms, he's saying. Vaktum arhasi asheshena divyaha hi atma vibhutayaha yabihi vibhutibihi lokani mam tvam vyapya tishtasi. No, it's hold on. Yabihi vibhutibihi lokan, it's lokan iman tvam vyapya tishtasi. That means he says yabihi, through which forms, vibhutibihi, these different special forms that you have, lokan iman, this world, all of this world, vyapya, pervade, tishtasi, that you are. That means you tell me in a full detail, whole thing, on in how many forms, in which forms, what are those details, everything through which you are pervaded in this universe. I want to know that, he says. And then he says, why is he asking about vibhutis? He says, Katham vidyamaham yogin tvam sada parichintayan keshu cha bhaveshu chintyaha asi bhagavan maya. That means, why I need this? Because I need this for worship. Katham vidyamaham yogin. What is yogin? Yogin, see, yoga means tool, upaya. Yoga also means power. My yoga means my power. Yogin means the powerful. That means sarvashakta. Yogin means sarvashakta. Hey Yogin, Sarvashakta, all powerful, how do I know you? Always. In what pratikas, in what forms should I worship you? Parichintayan, always thinking about you, always meditating about you. What forms, in which, keshu keshu cha bhaveshu, in which things as a pratika should I worship you? In what things should I worship you? In what forms that you are in those things should I worship you? Keshu keshu means in which forms that you are in all of these bhavas. Bhavas means all of these things, the living beings, the things in this universe, that you are in all of those things. What forms are you in all of those things? And how do I meditate on that? You need to tell me that. Chintahasi Bhagavan Maya. That means Vibhuti yoga is a yoga to tell you which forms of Paramatma is there in these things that makes them special and different. And then how do you meditate on those? What do you meditate on? That is what he's asking about. Right? So he's telling Krishna, tell me about all of these forms that I can think and meditate about. Then he says, Vistarena Atmanaha Yogam Vibhutim cha Janardana Bhuyaha Kataya Truptirhi Shrunvato Nasti Me Amrutam. Beautiful, right? This is the Lakshana of a student. See, he says, Vistarena, in full detail, Atmanaha Yogam, your power, your omnipotent power that you have, Vibhutim, these different various forms that you have, O Janardana, Bhuya Kataya, tell me again, because he's already told in different chapters, right? Raso Hamapsu, and he's in a little, in a couple of verses, he's told in different things. Now he wants to go deep in detail. Vistarena Atmanaha Yogam Vibhutim cha Janardana Bhuya Kataya. Tell me again in full detail why. Truptirhi Shrunvataha Nasti. I have no satisfaction. I'm not satisfied. I want to know more and more and more and more. Me Amrutam. What you're telling me is Amrutam. Right? It is like, it's the immortal, that which gives immortality. Right? And it is like the ambrosia, right? It is that kind of taste, right? In terms of taste, it is like that. It's Amruta. And then I want to just have it and have it and have it. I don't want. There's no trupti for me. Right? Remember, in the previous one, in one of the verses, there were two words used, right? Tushti and Ramana. Right? And I said Tushti means satisfaction. You need to get alam buddhi or satisfaction about things of the outside world. Ramana means you should have dissatisfaction about Paramatma. That dissatisfaction in the sense, no, I want to know more and more and more and more. That is what Arjuna is showing here. He says, Bhuya Kataya Truptirhi Shrunvato Nasti. Nasti me. I don't have the satisfaction. I'm not satisfied. Whatever you have told me, I'm not satisfied. I need to hear more and more. Vistarena Atmanaha Yogam Vibhutim cha Janardana. That means you need to tell me even in more and more and more detail. I want to hear more details. This Amruta Vakyas, this honey, this ambrosia of knowledge that you're giving me, I am dissatisfied. I'm not satisfied at all. I need to know more. More and more. So this is the ideal quality of a student, is dissatisfaction in learning. You should not be satisfied in learning. You should always be dissatisfied in learning. Right? See, when you eat and drink something, you can become satisfied. But knowledge, you should always be dissatisfied. You should never get satisfaction in knowledge. You should always get satisfaction in bhoga. So do two things. Same meaning in the previous one, right? Tushtihi bhogat. In what we have bhoga, you should have tushti. That means satisfaction. Ramana in jnana. That means dissatisfaction. You should have the dissatisfaction in knowledge. Because you should never sit satisfied in what you know. You should be very dissatisfied because you want to know more and more and more. That is the lakshana of a student. And the ideal student here is Arjuna.
Okay.
How are we doing? Good?
Dissatisfied.
Oh, good. Which means you should say, don't stop at 12 o'clock. I want to know more and more and more.
More,
Right.
yeah.
Except for hunger, what to do?
No. That you should be tusta. Okay, so next one, 19. So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So Krishna has heard all this that Arjuna said. Krishna is saying, Hantate kata ishyami. Hanta in Sanskrita means harsha. Oh, of course, like in a
Joy.
exaggerated joy, that exuberant joy where you say Hantate kata ishyami. Of course I'm going to tell you. Of course I'm going to tell you. He said kata ishyami. Divyaha hi atma vibhutaya. All these divine forms of mind, the specific forms, different forms that in which I pervade this world, those forms, of course, I'm going to tell you. Pradhanyataha, he says. Only the main ones I'll tell you. Kurushreshta, Pradhanyataha. That means, oh Arjuna, the Shreshta of, the great among the Kurus, I'll tell you only the main ones. Not everyone. You wanted all the details. I will not tell you the details. I'll tell you the main ones. Na asti, nasti, antaha vistarasya me. There is no end to details. We cannot sit here and me describe the details because there's no end to it. It is infinite forms. How can I tell you the details of infinite forms? You cannot. So he says, I will tell you the main ones because if I start telling you all of them, there is no end to it. Right? So nasti antaha vistarasya me. My details, there is no end to it. So I will stick to just telling you the main things. The pradhanyataha has two meanings here. One is, I will tell you the main things. And the second one, main things as that which is required for your upasana, for meditation. What is required for your upasana? And the second one, pradhanyataha means, how does that object that I tell you has attained that specialty, pradhanya, right? I will tell you that. Right? I mean, is this understood? That means there's there are two kinds of things that Krishna is going to say. Svajatiya pradhanyam, vijatiya pradhanyam. That means specialty within the same group, that is svajatiya pradhanyam, specialty in the other than the same, in variety of groups. Right? That means there is, let's say, lion, right? Lion is great among all the animals. Let's say all the animals that live in the jungle. Lion is great. So that is what? It is Svajatiya pradhanya or Vijatiya pradhanya?
Swajatiya.
Huh?
Swajatiya, because it's pertaining to a specific domain.
No. Vijatiya pradhanya. We are not only talking about a lion which is greater among lions. That is Svajatiya pradhanya. We are talking about lion which is greater among all animals. That is Vijatiya, because there's different animals, right? There's lion, there is elephants, there is all the other things. So it is not within a clan, which is not within its group.
Right.
That
So
is,
I was looking at animals as a domain, and that's why I said amongst all animals, Swajatiya, lion is the greatest one.
no. It's Vijatiya in that sense. In the sense that it is not just greatest among the lions. There's one lion. Whatever that the Lion King. What was the name of the Lion King?
Simba.
Let's say Simba. So Simba is the greatest among the lions. That will become Swajatiya, because you are comparing the greatest lion among lions. But when I say a lion is greatest among all animals, that is Vijatiya pradhanya. Right? So there are two kinds of pradhanyas that Krishna is going to talk here. Swajatiya pradhanya, where he's going to say, how this individual is special and greater than all within that group. Right? Swajatiya group. That means of the same kind. That is lion among lions. elephant among elephants, men among men, man among men. Right? These are Svajatiya Pradhanya. Vijatiya Pradhanya means, lion among animals. That's Vijatiya. So these are two kinds of Pradhanyata. So when here Krishna says Pradhanyataha, he means that it is Svajatiya Pradhanya. That means what makes a certain thing special among its own kind. That is one kind, Svajatiya, and among different kinds. That is second Pradhanya. So what makes things special? I will tell you that. Right? So whatever Krishna is going to say from now on, he is going to say what makes that thing special. And why does it make special? Not because of itself, because of me, because of Krishna, right? Like I said, like I explained that Kathopanishad mantra, na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nemaha vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasha sarvam idam vibhati. That means the sun doesn't shine it. The moon or the stars or even the lightning or even the fire does not shine him, the Paramatma. Why it doesn't shine him? Because they are shining because of him. It is his shine, they're just a reflection of. Right? So the whole concept of that anything that is special not because of itself, but because it is a shine of Paramatma. That is what he's going to talk about. All of Vibhuti Yoga is that. What makes a thing special? Not itself, but Paramatma's Sannidhana in it that makes it special. Okay, is there a question here? Homogeneous and heterogeneous. Okay, yes, yeah, yes. Swajatiya means homogeneous. Vijatiya means heterogeneous. Okay. Pradhan. So remember this. Arjuna is asking, in which forms should I worship you in this and think and meditate you in this world as pervading in this world? Right? And Krishna says, I will tell you the main ones. And then Krishna is also saying, I'll tell you how these forms make that special in its own group, across groups. How these are specials, right? Now let's start one, and we can stop after this. And then because verse 21, there's a lot of details that we have to go through. So we'll start with 20. Okay. He says, generally, he starts off with general. See, Vibhuti means special. But then he says, generally it's special. How is it special? He says, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhut Ashayastitaha. I am the Atma. Atma here means Antaryami. Bhuta is all the jivas. Sarva Bhuta. Ashaya means hidden in the cave of the heart. Stita, I am hidden in the cave in all the living beings, in everything. Right? Bhuta means if you take it as living beings, Bhuta. If you also take it as Panchabhutas, that means everything, animate, inanimate, everything. I am there within it, as its Atma, as it's Antaryami. I am the Antaryami within the jivas. I am the Antaryami in Nirjiva, inanimate beings also. And why is that special? Because each thing is unique. Are any two things alike in this universe? Any two things?
No.
That is what he's saying. He's saying, Arjuna, everything in this universe is unique. No two things are alike. They might be similar. They're not the same. Similarity, yes. Sameness, no. Right? So everything is unique. So there is only one Kartik Bala. There's only one Kartik Radha Krishna. Maybe there's two Kartik names. But Kartik Radha is different, Kartik Bala is different. Right? So that same way, how these things are unique? Because my Sannidhana in it as Antaryami. So I am in it, I am in everything as its Antaryami, and I make it special and unique. Everything in this world is special and unique. There's no other thing like it other than itself. Right? So he says, think, you wanted to know details, right? This is a detail. The detail is this: I am in everything, and I'm uniquely in everything, because everything is unique, and therefore I'm uniquely in everything, and therefore everything is infinite. Therefore my forms are uniquely infinite. So that you should know stulataha. That means you should know generally. This is true of all vibhutis. Okay. Aham adischa madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha. I am the beginning, I am the middle, I am the end of all the bhutas. That means, what is this beginning, middle, end? That can be creation, sustenance, destruction. It can be sleeping, dreaming, waking up. It can be pralaya, mahapralaya, mahasrishti, and all of it. Can be manvantara srishti, manvantara, the madhya, and manvantara anta. It can be any one of the beginning, creation, sustenance, and destruction. All of this, it can be yuga, yuga srishti, yuga madhya, and yuga anta. So all of these things, they are all because of me. Aham adirhi. He says, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of in every domain of all of the beings. So this is like stulatva. That means from a 60,000 feet level, view of, okay, I need to know, you have asked me about details. This is one thing you should know. As big a detail that I can give is that what I am in everything, in a unique form, making it unique, because everything in the world is unique. There are no two things alike. Okay. And then I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of everything in the universe. So think that is the stula jnana. That is the 60,000 feet level knowledge. Okay. So that's 20. Do you want to start 21 a little bit? This is where things start.
No, Sunil, the problem is with other things. I think it has to, yeah.
What about others?
Good.
Okay, let's start at least one. Okay. Now, what's that?
Gudakesh means?
Gudakesha means he who has conquered sleep.
Yes.
Okay. Now he starts the Vibhuti Yoga in the sense that actual Vibhuti. Adityanam aham Vishnu, Jyotishanam Ravi Ramshuman, Marichir Marutam Asmi, Nakshatranam aham Shashi. Okay. So Adityanam aham Vishnu. So what is an Aditya? Let me stop sharing this.
Aditi Putra.
Yes. Okay. I was creating this, so it will be filled up. This spreadsheet will have a lot of details. So this is very important. So full attention. Okay. So there are Aditi, right? In this Manvantara, in the Vaivasvata Manvantara, Kashyapa and Aditi had 12 kids. Okay. So then the first kid was Indra, and the last kid was Vamana, right? You know the story, Vamana Avatara story, right? He was the final last kid. So the 12 kids, what happened? They, in this Manvantara, they climbed up to the position of Indra and the different Devatas, right? In the other Manvantara, the Devas of that Manvantara came through different parents and different beings. In this Manvantara, they came through Aditi. Not always through Aditi. Aditi is through in this Manvantara. In Vaivasvata Manvantara, Kashyapa and Aditi had 12 kids, and they became the Devatas. Indra became the Indra of this Manvantara. Right? In the next Manvantara, Bali will come from the Patala Loka. Right? So then he will bring the other Devatas. So that those Devatas will be born somewhere else to some other parents, some other Rishi, whatever. And they occupy the position. This position is nothing but they are the natural phenomenon of the world. They are the controllers of that. So the universe The universal phenomenon needs a controller. So these controllers are positions. So these beings come to that position to control the natural phenomenon in the external world, natural phenomenon within the internal world, right? Why is heart beating? So there will be a god of heartbeat, prana, right? So of course, prana is not for one mantra, but I'm just giving an example, right? So that is a position. To that position in one mantra, there will be one deity. In the second mantra, before creation happens, there will be another deity who will be responsible for the hearts to beat in that mantra, right? So it is not one individual that does it. It is the one position to which those individuals come that will do it. Okay. So in this Vaivasvata mantra, Kashyapa's wife Aditi had 12 kids. So they are called Adityas. Adityas means Aditi. Aditehe apatyam puman. That means Aditi's kids are Adityas. So there are 12 Adityas. And you looking at this, you might have guessed. What is this?
Horoscope.
This is the horoscope, right? This is south. There are three styles of horoscope. There is an East Indian horoscope, Orissa and all those places. There's a North Indian style, which is diagonal, and then this is a South Indian style, right? I only know South Indian style, so I will stick to this. So this is the Mesha Rashi: Mesha, Vrishabha, Mithuna, Krataka, Simha, Kanya, Tula, Vrishchika, Dhanus, Makara, Kumbha, Meena. Right? Why are there 12 Rashis? Because there are 12 Adityas.
Aditya.
There are 12 Rashis because there are 12 Adityas. It is not something that we borrowed from Greeks. You know, they said, oh, the 12 concept came from Greeks. No. The 12 Adityas are there even in the Vedas. So the Adityas are Rashi Adhipatis. Right? Rashi Adhipatis. They are the Adhipatis or the rulers of resources. The sun provides the resources to all the beings, resources to create. Right? These are the 12. What are the 12 sons of Aditi? We'll start with Mesha Rashi, Dhata. Aryama is also Pitrupati. One of the Pitrus is also Aditya and one of the Pitrus. Mitra. Varuna. Varuna rules Kataka Rashi. Mitra rules Mithuna Rashi.
That's why it's Mitra. That's why it's Mitra and Mithuna kind of coming similar names.
No, not because of that, but Indra. So this is, what is this Rashi?
Simha Rashi.
What is Simha?
Sun, ruled by sun.
No. But what is Simha? Simha is throne, palace, government, power.
Yeah.
Who is sitting on the throne of power?
Indra.
So Indra occupies the throne among the devas. These are all the devas. Indra occupies the throne. Right? Simha Rashi is the power center. So he occupies the power. Vivaswan, another Aditya. Pusha, another Aditya. Parjanya, the one who creates the sun that creates rain. It's called Parjanya. Amshuman, another Aditya. Bhaga, he is Bhagya Devata. He is the one who brings luck. Bhagya Devata, Bhaga. Twasta is the celestial architect. He creates. Finally, Vishnu, Vamana is Vishnu. So he says, Adityanam aham Vishnu. Who is the great among the Adityas? Not Indra. It's Vamana. Right? Among all, Indra may be the king. Who is the real king? He says, Adityanam aham Vishnu. Oh, Vishnu Aditya is the king. Right? Vishnu is what? That's why what?
That's why the 12th house is kind of a moksha house.
Correct. Man, that's exactly correct. 12th, this is the moksha sthana, right? 12th house. This is the ocean, Meena, ocean. This is when all the world is gone. What remains on the ocean is Vishnu. This is where mukti is. Mokshamichet Janardanath. He sits in this. Vishnu sits in the 12th house. Right? And he says, even though Vamana is Upendra, That means Indra's Upa. That means he's born after, he's the youngest. Right? Even though he's the youngest, he's the greatest. Even though he's not on the throne. See, remember, the 12th house is 8th from this house.
Yeah.
Right? He's against the throne. He's against the throne. He doesn't occupy the throne. But he is the real king. Right? Beautiful this one is.
Beautiful.
Right? So in Jyotisha, the 8th house from any house kills that house. Right? Ashtama, like if you look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th house from Simha, which is Meena, kills Simha. Whatever is here is killed by here. Right? So here, that means whatever is here dislikes this. Not Indra. Of course, he's Indra Sakha. He's the one who is the eternal guide. Right? I mean, this is basically Krishna Arjuna. The Arjuna was Indra. So Krishna is here, Arjuna is here. Same combination.
Wow.
Nara Narayana.
Amazing.
Arjuna, Krishna, Indra, Vishnu. Right?
But they
then,
don't. Yeah.
Indra is power. Vishnu is not in power. But he's the real king.
He's a charioteer.
Exactly. See, that is exactly. He's a charioteer. He's there. He is not the one riding the chariot. This is here, power. Riding the chariot is power.
He's sitting.
He is the one who is, he is the charioteer. But who is the real king? Not the one who is fighting in the chariot. It's the charioteer. That's the real king. Right? Beautiful. I mean, if you look at the relationships, you'll understand all the Puranic stories just with this picture. All Puranic stories will come with this picture.
Super.
Right? So here it says, among Dwadasha Adityas, so this each sun, each Aditya rules the sun in a given month. Right? So now we are in which Masa? We are in Mesha Masa because sun is here. So if sun is here, who is the sun? Abhimani Devata. Who is the Aditya which is in the sun? Dhata. So when you pray outside to the sun, you should pray Dhatre Namaha.
Dhatre Namaha.
Dhatre Namaha. That means he is the sun. The Aditya that is in the sun, that is shining this month, when sun is in Mesha Rashi, is Dhata. Then the next month, when he goes forward, in the sense that when he goes forward, then he is in the Vrishabha Rashi, it is Aryama.
Yeah.
Right? Mitraya Namaha, Varunaya Namaha, Indraya Namaha, Vivasvadaya Namaha, all of these things, right? Each month as in solar month. Each month as in when the sun moves, right? I mean, like April 14th to May 14th, right? April 14th he moved to May 14th. That is, he's in Mesha until May 14th. May 14th to June 15th or 16th, he will be Aryama. June 15th to July, he will be Mitra. July to August, he will be Varuna. August to September, Indra. September to October, Vivasvan, all like that. So in each month, when the sun moves to that Rashi, that Aditya will come there and infuse that power with the special power. Dhata's power is to cause spring, to spring new life. So he's Dhata, he comes there. Okay, so he's saying, among all of this, I myself am the 12th one and the greatest. There are two kinds of forms here. One, Krishna himself is there. The one, there is somebody who is special in him. Krishna is there giving that specialty. Right? Krishna is not Antaryami of Vishnu. Krishna is Vishnu himself here. Right?
Yes.
Right? So he's saying this is called as Pratyaksha Rupa. That means he himself is the special in that group. So he's naming himself. But in some other groups, right, there is a special thing, but which is not him, his form. So that is called as Tirohita Rupa. That means he has gone in that form to give it speciality. To give it speciality. Right? That becomes Tirohita Rupa. Okay. So is this understood? I'm going to send the spreadsheet when I am done with all of the naming and all that, because remember, wherever I bold it, that is a special. Guys, can you please mute? See, wherever I've bolded it, that is the one that is special in that group, right? So among the Vasus, Anala means Agni. Agni is special. Among Rudras, Maheshwara is special, or Shiva is special, right? So we will see that. And I'm creating that whole chart of all these different groups. So we have started with this. Adityanam Aham Vishnuhu. Among all the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Okay. Is that understood?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
each Aditya is the ruler of a Rashi. He is the giver of resource. Right? There are 12 Rashis, 12 Adityas, 12 resources. And they
So,
are the one that
yes,
give.
well, going back to that, you said the 8th position after the negates that, right? That goes to every position, right? So if we go to Viswaswan, then Datta would negate Viswaswan, right? Is that how it works?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So
So when-
negating in the sense that would be your primary quality if you belong to Trasi. Is that how it works? Or
No, it means it is the it's the one that brings the end.
okay, got
Right?
it.
So why are there, guys? You have to mute it. Okay. See, why are there 11 Rudras? See, for every Rashi, the Rudra sits in the 8th house. Right? He's the Antakaraka. Right? That means there should be 12. There are 12 signs. There should be 12 Rudras, of which Maheshwara Shiva is also the same Rudra, and therefore there are 11. So that means there are 11 Rudras that bring end to the 11 Rashis. So when we come to that, I'll explain, because let me not go into that. That is the list here, the
Okay,
Rudras
got it.
here.
All right.
So, but again, 8th is the one that is the end, Anta, end of whatever. So that means if this is kingdom, this is the one that's the end of kingdom, that which does not need the kingdom. So Vamana never wanted the kingdom, right? He never wanted the kingdom. But he's the real king, though. Same way, Krishna did not want anything, but he's the real king, even though Indra, Arjuna fought the war. So same relationship.
But
So
they
is it
don't
always clockwise?
What is that?
Do you always look at this clockwise?
Who is the one?
Do you always look at this clockwise for the negation?
Yeah, clockwise, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So it goes from here. Like this is Mesha, Vrishabha, Aries, Taurus. What is that? What is Mithuna?
Gemini.
Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Yeah, it goes clockwise.
Thank you.
Right. So this is what it is. Okay. Adityanam Aham Vishnu. Let's go back to stop sharing this and. Okay. Adityanam Aham Vishnu. Aham Vishnu Aditya. Jyotisham Ravi Ramshuman. We'll stop at this, okay? That means among everything that is lighted up, or that is everything that is shining, I am Ravi. That means I am the sun among all the shining objects. The greatest shining object in our sky is what? The sun. Ravi Ramshuman means the one who has rays, who has many rays, right? Infinite rays. So Amshuman. So among everything that shines, which is the biggest shine? Sun. Right? So Ravi Ramshuman means I am the sun is the greatest among all the shining objects. And what makes sun the greatest among all the shining objects? Because I am in it, giving it that speciality. Not the sun is not special because of itself, because of me. Ravi Ramshuman. So among all of the shining objects, I make the sun special by being in it and making it special. Okay. So, but this is a pratika and it's a big concept. So what I will do, it's almost 12:25, so we will stop at this point because I will have to explain why sun, why you started with sun and all of those things. So I just wanted to start this topic because this is, this is fascinating. There'll be a lot of stories, just like I explained, 12 Adityas and, why Vamana is in the 12th place and all of those things. So with many of these, there are different stories of why they are special, what is their specialty, where did they come from, whose kids are they, all of those things that, we'll be taking up for each one of them. And so there'll be a big story for that. So each will take time. So what I'll do with just Adityanam Aham Vishnu, I'll stop at the start of this. And then we'll pick this up from next class, from where we'll start, what makes this thing special, why is it special, and what is the etymology of those words, what is the etymology of Ravi, all of those things we'll take from the next class. Okay? Any questions so far? Looks like that some, hold on. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's.
The right one now to do the question.
What is that? Okay, let's finish with the prayer. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Tam Sachanura Mardanam Devaki Ramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Om. Okay. So we will continue this. This is the great part. I mean, this is full of stories. So next week will be very interesting. Okay. We will meet next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
On all Halloween Eve to celebrate